Alrighty, day 1 of lesson 5.2 is slope-intercept form. Our learning target is I can write and graph linear equations in slope-intercept form. Today we're just going to practice writing them so we're familiar with which pieces we're going to need. The most important part is to remember that all of our equations in slope-intercept form are written y equals mx plus b. So make sure you have that written down somewhere on your note packet. And then we're going to label these two pieces here. We're going to remember that slope is represented by that letter M, and our y-intercept is represented by the B there. So today we're practicing finding slope and y-intercept. Alrighty, first example, we want to write an equation of a line that passes through the point -1, 3 and has a slope of -4. As you can see, I've already labeled our ordered pair tells us an x and y value, and our slope is already given to us. And the first step here is to find our slope. So I'm just going to fill this in, change my pen size here, and we use m for slope, so we're at m equals -4. To find our y-intercept, we don't have the intercept given, so this is new. So we need to use the equation, so the slope-intercept formula that we need is form is y equals mx plus b. I'm going to fill in what I know, and I mentioned that we're given an x value and a y value. So my y value is 3, slope is -4, x value is -1 plus b. And so I'm going to draw that line, and we're solving for b. So keep 3, -4 times -1 is a +4, plus b. Subtract 4 on both sides, and we're left with -1 equals b. So this is your y-intercept. And now our last and final step is to write our equation. So I know my equation has to be y equals mx plus b. And when I write my equation, I'm going to leave those y and x variables. So y equals m was -4, x stays, and b is -1. So this is my final answer. That's your perfect slope-intercept. So if you need a little time to catch up, press pause, copy down these notes. If you got stuck somewhere, maybe make a note of that. You can ask your teacher tomorrow. Example 2. Write an equation of a line that passes through -2, 5 and 2, -1. So in this case, our first step is still to find our slope, but we're not given the slope. So we have to go back to what we know from chapter 4 and use that formula. So I have my x values and my y values, and I'm going to plug that into my formula. And if you can't remember, you get to pick which ones are your 1s and which ones are your 2s. So it's up to you. I always work left to right. So in this case, I have y2, so 1 minus 5 all over 2 minus -2. Just keep simplifying. So -6 over 4. And again, that's going to be a decimal of some sort, so I'm just going to reduce that fraction. So I end up with -3 over 2 equals m. So that's my slope. Find my intercept is the same exact way I just did in that step, or that example before. So I'm going to use this y equals mx plus b. And since we have 2 points, you get to pick which one. So I'm just going to use that first one. So I have 5 is my y value. M is -3 over 2. X is -2 plus b. And I'm going to work vertically. So draw my line and simplify. So I have 5 equals 2 negatives make a positive. Divided by 2 and multiplied by 2 cancel each other out. So I'm left with a 3 plus b. If you're not sure how I did that, feel free to use your calculator still. Alright, so then we are going to complete this. So 5 minus 3 is 2. And that's a 2, not a z. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll try and write that again. 3 minus 3 is 0. And so we're left with our y-intercept. And we're going to put it all together and write our final equation in slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. I'm going to write in what I know. So y equals m is negative 3 over 2, x, and b is a positive 2. So now this is our perfect slope-intercept equation. So if you need a chance to catch up, feel free to press pause and then move on to the next example. Alrighty, for this one, again, we're going to follow those same steps. The first step we've been doing is finding slope. So we know that slope, using a graph, we can use this rise over run. So I'm going to use m, because we use that to represent slope. Our rise, you always count from one point to the next. So I'm going to count from this point to this point. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, and my run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my slope is 2 over 5. And now for my y-intercept. I know the y-intercept is represented by the letter b. And if I look at this equation, at this line, I always want to look, where does this line connect or cross that y-axis? And in this case, if you look at right at that spot, it's not quite on a corner. So I don't know if it's quite 0, quite 1, if it's 0.5. So if you don't know what it is for sure, you have to go back to using your algebra skills like we were doing in the first few examples. And we actually have to write slope-intercept, so y equals mx plus b, and actually algebraically solve for b. So I'm going to plug in what I know, and I have to pick one of these 2 points. It's up to you. It doesn't matter which one you pick. So because I like zeros, I'm going to pick this point here. So my y value is 0 equals, my slope I've learned is 2/5. X is negative 2 plus b. And I'm going to draw my line, and I'm going to continue that down. So keep my 0. When I multiply fractions, multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So I turn that negative 2 into negative 2 over 1. So negative 2 times 2 is a negative 4. 5 times 1 is 5 plus b. And to get b by itself, I'm going to add 4/5 on both sides. That didn't quite turn out like a 4. And now those two are going to cancel, and I'm left with b. 0 plus 4/5 is still just going to be 4/5. And so now I have my y-intercept. So my last step is to write out my slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to replace or substitute in m and b. So I'm going to write y equals m is 2/5, x, b is a positive 4/5. And here I have my perfect slope-intercept equation. Again, if you need a chance to catch up, feel free to push pause, copy down the notes. If you got stuck somewhere, make a note of that, and you can ask your teacher in the morning. In this example here, we're going to write an equation of a linear function f that has the given values. So we're still writing our equation y equals mx plus b, so I'm just going to write that on top here. And if you recall from chapter 4, this is function notation, so whatever's inside those parentheses tells you what your x value is. Whatever it equals tells you your y value. So this actually tells me my first ordered pair is negative 2, comma, negative 2. That second ordered pair is actually 4, comma, -8. So I want you to press pause. If you need to, look back at a past example, and I want you to try this one on your own, push play, and check your work. Okay, at this time, check your work. You should be following the arrows, so your ordered pairs were -2, -2, 4, -8. First step is to find your slope. Check your work there, so your slope should be -1. Second step is to find your y-intercept. So you're going to write your equation and solve for b. And again, you get to pick either or ordered pair. So it doesn't matter which one you pick, your intercept should still be -4. And then your final step is to write your equation and put it all together. So if you need to, press pause, copy this down, and then ask some questions from your teacher tomorrow if you need extra help. Okay, to wrap up the last of this video, on the very end of your notes, you have 3 boxes here. They're kind of split apart. Each of these tells you the 3 ways to write your equation. So for example, that first one, if you are given a slope and a y-intercept, you have 2 steps. Substitute the slope and then substitute the y-intercept. So if you'd like to kind of use this as a guide, you could push pause and write each of these steps down. I broke it down for you as simplest as I could. For example, that mid one, if you're given a slope and just 1 point, you can follow these 4 steps. You're going to substitute your slope for your m. You're going to substitute the x and y values from that point you're given into the formula, into the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and solve for b. Your final step is to replace them and write your equation. Now, last one, if you're given 2 points, you're going to use the points to find the slope. So your 2 points, you're going to use that formula that we used earlier in the video, and then you're going to complete the next 4 steps from the one prior to it. So if you need any help, please write these down and then ask your teacher when you get to class in the morning. Awesome. See you tomorrow for practice.